From Isfahan to Ménilmontant, The Journey of Ali Erfan. Translated from French. The Orient, with its mysteries and torments, has always nourished the Western imagination. But what do we really know about contemporary Persia, about this land of poetry that became the theater of a revolution that disrupted the world order? It is a window onto this Iran, steeped in contradictions, that the work of Ali Erfan opens for us. Writer and filmmaker born in Isfahan in 1946, and forced into exile in France since 1981. His work, written in a French language he has made his own, is a poignant testimony of rare finesse about the tragedy of a people, and the condition of exile. Writing as resistance. In his art of probing souls tormented by tyranny and the absurdity of fanaticism, many see in Ali Erfan the worthy heir of the great Sadeh Hedayat. His writing plunges us into a harsh and implacable world where the terror of the hallucinatory philosophy of the Imams reigns, a world peopled with the persecuted women of
Ma femme est une sainte.
My wife is a saint, the oppressed artists of
Le dernier poète du monde.
the last poet of the world, the cursed figures of
Les damnés du paradis.
the damned of paradise. Everywhere cruelty, barbarity, darkness, at the expense of goodness, gentleness, light. And yet, it is not so much these vices that he lays bare as the totalitarian state that engenders them all, and that, to erect itself, demands its cement of bodies. This same macabre cement reappears in
Sans ombre.
Without Shadow, a raw testimony about the Iran-Iraq war, an appalling charnel house, that drank even the blood of the children sent to walk upon the mines. The order was clear, a unit was to walk upon the mines. Some 10 volunteers had already risen. It was incredible. They advanced serenely toward the hill. In the darkness, I could no longer make out their faces, but shadows that slowly disappeared. I heard the second, the third, the fourth, my God, until the last explosion, one after another, sometimes 2 at once. If Ali Erfan does not have the joy of believing, that is his defect, or rather his misfortune. But this misfortune stems from a very grave cause. I mean the crimes he has seen committed in the name of a religion whose precepts have been distorted and diverted from their true meaning, faith becoming madness. He opened one of the thick files without haste, removed a sheet, examined it, and suddenly cried out, "Lock this woman in a burlap sack, and throw stones at her until she dies like a dog." And he continued, repeating the same gesture, tossing aside the writing of one who had traveled to God. Seizing another, he suddenly stood up, standing on the table, and cried like a madman, "Let the father strangle his son with his own hands." Of exile and memory. Exile is a wound that never quite closes. In
Adieu Ménilmontant.
Farewell Ménilmontant, Ali Erfan leaves his native Persia for a time to speak to us of France, his land of refuge. The novel is a tribute to the Rue de Ménilmontant, that cosmopolitan quarter of Paris where he lived and worked as a photographer. It is a tender and sometimes cruel chronicle of the life of the lost souls of the world, those pariahs of life who, like him, have washed up in this refuge. However, even in France, Iran is never far away. The smells, the sounds, the faces, everything recalls the lost Orient, a memory that, to fight against oblivion, selects from the past the most salient features. Each time he undertakes to write, Ali Erfan seeks the time of his early youth. He tastes the ecstasy of recollection, the pleasure of finding lost and forgotten things in his native language. And, as this recovered memory does not faithfully recount what happened, it is the true writer, and Ali Erfan is its first reader. Now, I know its language French, but I don't want to speak. Madam says, "My dear, say, Jasmine." I don't want to. I want to pronounce the name of the flower that was in our house. What was it called? Why don't I remember? That large flower that grew in the corner of the courtyard, that climbed, that turned. It climbed over the door of our house, and it fell into the street. What was it called? It smelled good. Madam says again, "Say, my dear." I cry, I cry. The work of Ali Erfan, at once singular and universal, plunges us into an oppressive Orient, where the leaden cloak of a tentacular theocracy weighs heavy. Certainly, one might fear that the writer of exile serves, despite himself, only to feed the clichés of Western Islamophobia, a thesis at the heart of his exile literature, a minor literature by Hessam Norachi. But whoever saw only this side of things would miss the essential point. Throughout time, The Persian soul draws its strength from being torn away, making separation the source of its purest song. Such is the lesson of Rumi's flute, whose timeless music is born from its stem torn from its native reed bed. Listen to the reed flute tell a story. It laments the separation. Since I was cut from the reed bed, my complaint makes man and woman groan. The voice of Ali Erfan, like that of this flute, thus resounds not despite the crack, but indeed thanks to it, transmuting the brutality of loss into a poignant melody.